we've got a good show for you tonight. Good evening, everyone. We're live on BBC One. We want you getting stuck in tonight. If it's news, it's Nolan. There's the number, 03030 80 55 55. So pick up the phone to us. Stormont's Irish Language Commissioner is at the centre of a political row tonight. The TUV is calling on Paul Deeds to resign after he said this when asked about the decision by the campaign group, Conradh na Gaeilge, to change its constitution to work towards a united Ireland.
People need to take note and realise that everything, to I suppose, coin a phrase, every word spoken against the Irish language could be seen in one sense as another blow struck in the cause of Irish unification.
Do you see it that way?
I think that's possible. I think, you know, the more hostility that is generated around the Irish language, I don't think it's doing those who would be of a pro-union point of view any favours, and I think people really need to be conscious of that.
The Duppers are in the studio tonight. Paul Frew is here. Good evening, Mr. Frew.
Good evening.
Good evening, good evening. SLP, Carl, good evening to you.
Good evening,
Good
Stephen.
evening. Chris Donnelly, former Sinn Féin election candidate. Evening to you.
Good evening,
Good
Stephen.
evening, good evening. And Mr. Alistair, he hasn't come into the studio tonight. He's at home in his mansion. Good evening to you, Mr. Alistair.
Good evening, Mr. Nolan.
Good evening. So what's wrong with what Paul Deeds has said? What's your
Well,
problem?
what Paul Deeds has said is he chose quite deliberately to mimic one of the most notorious pieces of rhetoric from the terrorist campaign when it was said that every word spoken in Irish is another bullet fired in the freedom struggle. And he mimicked that to say every word spoken against Irish is a blow struck in support of Irish unity. So he thought it appropriate to effectively give two fingers to anyone who was offended by that rhetoric, which was supportive of the IRA terrorism of the time.
Well, he
course,
would say this is nonsense, of course, Jim. And he would say nothing. He was saying nothing of the sort. And he wasn't directly linking anything, was he?
Well, sorry, he was very calculatedly and deliberately mimicking and striking an affinity between those notorious words and what he was saying today. You know, I think that's undeniable. So the question is why?
Well, he
and
would
of course,
deny
he did it in a context. He did it in a context in which the primary promoting body of Irish language, apart from himself, Conradh na Gaeilge, has now totally politicised the Irish language by declaring that they, in pursuit of the Irish language, are also promoting the idea of Irish unity. So unionists have long been accused of politicising the Irish language. Now we have the official body directly, emphatically, politicising the Irish language and making it part of the Republican struggle. You know, these people, that obviously is how they now see Irish, as part of the promotion of Irish unity.
Well, they're entitled to a vote, aren't they? They're entitled to decide what their constitution is.
Then they're surprised that unionists might recoil against that. Why wouldn't unionists recoil against that if they're told this is now one of the weapons?
What is your obsession with the Irish language? Like, why does it irk you so much? Relax, chill.
Oh, sorry. My union matters to me. My unionism matters to me. And if I'm told that one of the weapons to be used to dismantle this union is the promotion of the Irish language, then do not be surprised that I and other unionists kick back against that. We wouldn't be much unionists if we didn't.
Paul Deeds himself, the Irish Language Commissioner himself, we invited him on the radio this morning. He couldn't make it. He's not here tonight. He has hit back in a statement that he's given to Nolan Live. He said the following: any suggestion that I was endorsing historical slogans or aligning with political causes is incorrect and misleading. My role as Irish Language Commissioner must be able to continue to be exercised independently and impartially. Carl?
Nothing independent about what he said.
He was very
Nothing
clear that he was acting in his role as Irish Language Commissioner, which is to support the promotion of an Indigenous language within the United Kingdom. Jim Allister is just making it up as he goes along here. Conrad na Gaeilge is not the official body when it comes to Irish language in Northern Ireland or in the Republic of Ireland.
Well, what is it? How would you describe it?
Well, it's an historic group whose purpose was set up over 100 years ago to promote the Irish language, Stephen, but it has no government status. It's not involved in government. It's there to lobby for the Irish language. And Stephen's reverse engineering. But Jim, you've had your say. You're reverse engineering a statement that Paul was asked at the side of an event run by the DUP's speaker, Edwin Poots, attended by all parties, or the main executive parties and the opposition. And Jim Allister is now trying to reverse engineer a statement, linking it with something that was made 20 years ago, because, as you've said, to feed this obsession that the TUV have and parts of the DUP about the Irish language and GAA.
Paul, is the DUP calling for the Irish Language Commissioner to resign?
Well, I think the Commissioner has created a problem for himself in the fact that he's now headline news for all the wrong reasons. I think that if you look through the array of commissioners we have in this country for all sorts of things, to champion things, to lobby for things, they do not display a political or a constitutional position, whereas this Commissioner has. So I think he has a real problem. He's an advocate
for the Irish language.
Well, he is an advocate for an Irish language which he is duty-bound to promote and encourage and to lobby for, but he has now made it a constitutional issue. He has now linked the Irish language with a constitutional issue.
How?
And the Irish language...
How has he linked it?
Because of his utterances today or yesterday. And the problem is, the Irish language has had a problem for a long, long time, where they have been, unfortunately for Irish speakers, the Irish language has been linked with the terrorist campaign and with Sinn Féin in particular. And they have to try and remove themselves from that linkage in order that everyone in Northern Ireland can be comfortable with the Irish language.
You're not seriously suggesting that in 2026... someone who supports Irish language is linked to a terrorist campaign?
No, I'm not. But
so
the
move
Irish
on
language,
then and get with the times.
The Irish language has been linked with Sinn Féin, with a terrorist campaign, with the armed struggle, as they call it, and they need to move away from, for the sake of the Irish language, they need to move away from that. Paul Deeds has created that controversy once again.
Chris?
I don't know where to start with that. The Irish language was politicised centuries ago, when it was demonised, when it was vilified, or criminalised by the British in Ireland. It was suppressed, and that was the story of the Irish language throughout. After partition, it was treated in much the same way by unionist governments. Now, our story over the past number of generations has been growing rights for those Irish language speakers across the north. And that is a story where what was interesting, and I think Paul's maybe conflating what Conrad na Gaeilge did with the Irish Language Commissioner. The Conrad na Gaeilge said that they were changing their constitution, which they're entitled to do. And if you read what they said, they very logically said, look, we see what's happened across Ireland, and in terms of promoting Irish, in terms of bringing it to the next level, what we're trying to do, a United Ireland would be a better framework because we would face less political resistance within that framework. Very clear and very logical. Now, the Irish Language Commissioner, I mean, a statement was made that he's made a problem for himself. He's maybe headline news with certain newspapers that have a problem with the Irish language. See, for the rest of us, what Paul Deeds said is actually consistent with what I hear liberal unionist commentators saying when they preach to unionist politicians, you need to stop having a go at the Irish language and GAA. It's not going to help in this society.
We now have the Irish language openly, overtly declaring itself as a vehicle towards promoting Irish unity.
That's not what the Irish Language Commissioner has said. That's one. That's one organisation you're talking about, separate to the Commissioner, which is Conrad na Gaeilge.
Organisations. Let's look at sport. We not only have language, we have sport. The primary sporting organisation of republicanism, the GAA, also has in its constitution the embracing of nationalism. So who are the political bigots here? You don't find within unionism language bodies promoting the union. You don't find within sport in unionism supporting the union. You find real sporting organisations and real language organisations.
What about the Orange Order?
So I do think it's time that those
what's the Orange Order?
Who like to
if you're throwing this language around about bigotry, what's the Orange Order?
To call everyone else bigots should take a look in the mirror at what they are doing, both in terms of language and in terms of sport.
Well, we're not going to throw about slurs like this and bigots and using language like that. Conor na Gaelic is a small lobby group. The Irish language, Jim can't decide that it wants to be for United Ireland. It's a language, that's what it is. You know, it's just a ludicrous...
Well, were they right to do that?
Well, no, sorry, Jim, a language can't decide if it's for United Ireland or not. That's what a group can do. The other issue is we're talking about sport. We had a debate recently over the Ulster banner and Northern Ireland athletes for the Commonwealth Games. There's controversy there. Athletes who are, you know, from an Irish background who are fighting for Northern Ireland in the Commonwealth Games still have to fight under the Ulster banner, which is not a flag that they're going to recognise. So let's not, you know, throw stones about how the GAA or Convent na Gaeilge. You will attack Irish culture no matter what its format is, Jim. If it's sport, if it's language, and I've been elected since 2019. I hear it from the DUP, not all the DUP. I hear it from the TUV, most TUV politicians, and there's not an issue I've talked more about, Stephen. And let me tell you something. We're here talking about it tonight. You know, I was putting my kids to bed earlier thinking, you know, think of the price of energy now because of the war in Iran. What are my kids going to do when they grow up because of the AI? What's the society going to be like? You know, that's what people are thinking about. They're not talking about these issues day in, day out. It's the TUV who are driving that agenda.
So culture enriches our lives. Language and education enriches our lives.
So does Irish language enrich people's lives?
The Irish language absolutely does enrich people's lives, but the Irish language has had this problem, not for the doing of anyone who speaks Irish and really loves the language. Douglas Hyde, the first president of the Gaelic League, said the Irish language, thank God, is neither Protestant or Catholic. It is neither unionist nor a separatist. But what that group has done now is made it a separatist. And that has done damage to the Irish language and will continue to do damage to the Irish language as we try and promote it and people lobby for more funding for it, as they are entitled to do, just like any other culture, just like any other arts is entitled to do. In this straitened times when we're trying to fix infrastructure and energy prices are going through the roof, there's a competing market out there. This has done the Irish language a lot of damage.
Brian's in Belfast. Morning, Brian. Good morning. Good evening, Brian. It's not midnight yet. 11 o'clock.
Stephen, I hope my grandchildren are not listening to this programme and other children who attend Irish medium schools that listen to the venom and the language coming from Jim Allister. It's unreal. I always said all during the years that the DUP and some in the DUP as well are playing politics with the Irish language. What harm is it doing Jim Allister? And has he ever set foot in an Irish school to see how the kids are taught Irish and taught the education?
Do you want to respond to that, Jim?
It's not me who has politicised the Irish language.
Have you ever set foot in an Irish school, or would you?
No, I haven't. But let me be very clear.
Would you?
It is not me who has politicised the Irish language. They've done it to themselves. They did it most notoriously in the Sinn Féin statement during the terrorist campaign about every bullet fired.
There you go again.
And now their official organisation has decreed themselves as those who have a Republican agenda.
You're creating Irish language. You're creating Irish language with violence, and that's wrong.
Stephen, the
centre
of Jim's constituency.
Every word spoken is another bullet in the Irish in the freedom struggle.
I want to make 2 points. The centre of Jim's constituency takes its name, Ballymena, from Irish.
Mm-hmm. A Sinn Féin said that how many years ago? Every word of Irish spoken is like another bullet being fired in the struggle for Irish freedom.
Well,
that was the 80s, right?
Some of the 80s. I could, if you want, I'll read you a statement from the TUV elected representative, which is a lot more recently, 2011, when she talked about I'm so sick of the poor Catholic bees. They make me sick. I wish they would just go down in Ireland and they could fly their flags and change their street signs. That's a lot more recent. Do we throw these things out? Is that what we're supposed to do here?
Well,
throw out something. Well, what I'm saying is...
You've literally printed it out in order to read it.
And in other words, the point, because I knew, as much as anything, that Jim was going to use a quote from 40-odd years ago, which we can't even attribute to a certain individual, because it is used, in a sense, to try to frame a discussion as if to say everything to do with the Irish language emanates from that quote. It is a nonsense. The Irish language is intrinsic to everything around us. Jim's constituency, Shankill, Kells, Oh, you know, the
Again,
Irish gives names to everything around
my
us. So
constituency-
it is not political per se. What turns it into politics is when people over centuries and more recently have sought to
go on,
oppress
Paul.
and suppress it.
So I'm the same constituency of Northampton as Jim, and I can tell you the history of the Irish language in that constituency. Rose Young of Gulgorm taught Irish. The Presbyterian Church kept Irish alive in this part of the world. There's no issue with the Irish language. It is the politicising and it is connecting it to a terrorist campaign over the decades where I was growing up that done the real damage to Irish language. And we need to get to a point where we can get beyond that so that we can all embrace, support and lobby for culture and language and education.
See, the Irish language did not associate itself with any armed campaign. People were arguing that Irish deserved to be recognised in this society. So those who were refusing to do that were associating it. That is where the problem lies, historically, in this society.
Jeff's in Belfast. Jeff, you're live on BBC One. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Stephen. First of all, I would say I do think the Commissioner sort of overstepped the mark by his comments. I think he did criticise the language, which he shouldn't have, because my understanding is he should be a cultural figure. But it's not just Sinn Féin and this Commissioner that have criticised the Irish language. I think the Alliance Party have indirectly criticised the Irish language by their support for the Sinn Féin policy in Belfast City Council to impose Irish language street signs. We just had media reports today, bear with me, that Stormont Park, a very leafy residential street in East Belfast, not a loyalist street by any definition, voted
Come on now,
5 to
cut to
1
the chase.
against street signs.
What?
But it's going to be imposed anyway. What I'm saying is that the Alliance Party, inadvertently, by supporting the Sinn Féin policy of imposing Irish language street signs in streets that don't want them, they have criticised the Irish language as well, inadvertently.
Is the 15% rule reasonable? Does it even feel fair that if 15% of households in a street want an Irish language sign or a dual language sign, that 15% is enough against the 85% who don't?
Well,
Does that feel fair?
You've asked me this question many times, and I've explained that why Irish language speakers are the only minority that have to apparently assemble themselves into a majority to have their rights enforced.
Does 15% feel fair to you?
15%, Stephen, is a threshold decided by different organisations. There is no scenario where 85% of people vote against the sign and 15% vote for it.
Yeah, there is.
No, it's when there's a majority and then it goes to the committee, and actually the example...
And 15% can prevail.
The example your caller has given tonight, my understanding is that those signs were not approved, so his facts need checked. There was a vote tonight, and that'll be brought forward. So there are scenarios where people can vote against and stop signs being in place. It's not a Sinn Féin policy, by the way. It was a policy agreed by Belfast City Council, supported by lots of different parties, including Alliance, including Greens, including the SDLP, including Sinn Féin, and including People Before Profit. There's many issues we don't disagree on. And by the way, there are bilingual signs, Irish and English, in lots of other councils, including unionist councils. So people need to do their homework about this and understand that these are not uniquely Belfast. And as I said to you earlier, this language is everywhere. It's in our surnames. I do not understand the antipathy, the aggression that there is, and it goes back to what
where's the aggression coming from?
Chris has said. Well, the 15% thing is not fair, and it's imposing, and it's doing the Irish language harm, and it's marking out territory. It's all of those things
What's
that will do
flag
the language.
Does it mark out territory?
Well, that's a flag. That's an identifier. Yep.
Does it mark out territory?
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah, but so why would an Irish language speaker want that to be imposed upon people who aren't comfortable or don't speak it or don't want it, whenever our place names are Gaelic or have been Gaelicized anyway or come from Gaelic?
No, can I say that so we need to nail this 15%. Yeah. If there's a problem with 15%, does that mean we revisit? Who named Craigavon Bridge? Did the people of Derry, did you consult and see if there was 15% support there? I could go across the city of Belfast to streets named after, go to Lisburn, there's a Cromwell Street there. Might be a controversial figure. Talk about Chichester, the city, the centre of Belfast. So if we want to talk about the naming of streets and the naming of hospitals and bridges, we can do that. But really, I'm not looking to rename Royal Victoria Hospital. It's my children were born there. It's named for...
Mid and East Antrim has renamed the street there only last month. So these things happen. There's a process for that. So let's get into that process. And
but we don't want to do that. No, so what I'm saying is, if we're framing the idea of saying it is unfair, you are imposing, well, people are logically saying, well, the actual name of the street. I mean, for instance, Sinn Féin's headquarters in Belfast is on Sevastopol Street. It's a street named for a battle in the Crimean War that involved the British.
Yep.
A lot of the streets around there.
And a lot of Irish too, by the way.
Yes, indeed. But the point, of course, is that it wasn't the Irish who decided. It was a battle associated with the British. So, you know, a lot of this comes from history. Education is important. That's why I think trying to take away the framing of it, 15%, that's so unfair. You need to then throw back and say, well, hold on. The streets actually in the initial instant were named by people just from one tradition. And therefore, the bilingual is about levelling out society.
But Ballymena isn't one tradition. Ballymena, the name itself isn't one tradition.
No, the name's not. It comes from Irish.
So why would you need to then add another layer onto that?
Albert in Belfast wants to talk to you, Paul. Hello, Albert.
Good evening, Stephen. First of all, can I just say that the cultural war with the Irish language, and it has been used to green Northern Ireland. If you green Northern Ireland more and more, it's a fight for the United Ireland. But what I want to say is, as a unionist, I was let down in the new decade new approach by Arlene Foster. She allowed an Irish language commissioner to be brought forward, and then the unionists, all they got was an Ulster Scots commissioner just as a sop, and that has started the whole issue now.
What danger is an Irish language commissioner to you?
Well, if you look at it, if you look at
threaten your union?
But let me say this. That's what I said to you. They're using Irish language to green Northern Ireland. So that's the fight. As Jim Allister said, it's a bullet basically fired in their United Ireland quest for a United Ireland.
Well,
it's out there. And if you look at it...
you say that. Just have a look. Just hold on a minute. You say that. Just have a look at how effortlessly the Speaker, his mate, the DUP's Edwin Poots, fluent this morning, right? Fluent.
G'day, Teagasc Fáilte. Hello and welcome. And as Speaker, it's my pleasure to welcome you all today as I host this event to mark Seachtain na Gaeilge, Irish Language Week, and this is an opportunity to acknowledge and celebrate a language and culture which is central to the identity of many in the Assembly and indeed our wider society.
That was Pootsy yesterday, and then hold on a minute now, Albert. Hold on, shush 1 wee minute. Now, the former DUP leader Arlene Foster said unionists feel bilingual signage is being used to mark out territory. Look.
Unfortunately, the Irish language has been used as a weapon against unionist areas, and it almost becomes a demarcation in the way that marking of curbs happened in the past. I regret that. But unfortunately, that is very strongly the perception that is out there in the unionist community.
And you've this kind of division, if you like. Hold on a minute, Albert. Hold on a minute, mate. You've this division within your own party.
No, there's no division.
Well, DUP founder, member Wallace Thompson, you'll know Wallace.
Yeah.
He was speaking to the Red Lines podcast, speaking to Mr. Crothers. Have a listen.
Unionism is treating the Irish language in an appalling manner. I mean, there's no justification for it at all. And even if they are totally opposed to the language, which I can't understand why they are, I can understand there's politics in all of this. Of course, the Irish language has been used as a political weapon, but it's there and it's precious to many people. I know a lot of decent Roman Catholic people who say they are pro-union, but their hackles rise whenever the Irish language is criticised. These are not militant Republicans. These are ordinary, middle-of-the-road Roman Catholic people who would support the union. So what are you doing to help the unionist case if you're actually then annoying those people? Realities need to be faced. Now, there's also an issue here, Mark, as well. Nationalism has a role to play in this. I don't think nationalists really fully reach out in the way that they need to do.
Paul?
So Wallace is talking about the context of what the Irish language has been for unionism for a long, long time. Arlene Foster's 100%. It's been used to mark out territory. And it was great to see Edwin Poots speak Irish yesterday and meet all those children who are Irish speakers. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that's the way we'd like it to be. But we have to counter the problem that the Irish language have got themselves into for decades now, where they've been aligned with this political party, where they've been aligned with the terrorist campaign, and they need to remove themselves from that.
Christina's in Antrim, live on BBC One. Christina, good evening.
Hello, Stephen.
Go ahead, Christina.
I just want to say that the Irish language was in Ireland and the North Ireland long before the British ever took over Northern Ireland.
Let's talk about now. Let's talk about 2026.
And as well as that, the GAA was in Ireland long before the British took over Ireland and the North Ireland.
What's your point?
What's my point? If the people are so hard up on being British and wanting to go back to their British rule and everything else, they know where England is. And there's a boat goes there every day of the week.
So there you have it.
You see, now we come to the heart of it, Stephen.
The connection
Now
between
we come to the heart of it.
the constitutional position and the language.
What is this Irish unity about? It's about driving, it's the old Brits out. And if the Irish language can be used to make unionists uncomfortable in their own country, then those who are politically inspired will so use it. And when you get a caller like that, effectively declaring Brits out, she's saying to people like Paul and to me, there's no place for us in Northern Ireland. Well, sorry, that is not going to be how it is. But it does bring home the fact, that there is a political motivation to the greening of Northern Ireland through the Irish language, as Conrad de Gaeilge now openly admits. And that is a fundamental reason why.
What place does Irish language have
in the foot?
What place, Jim Allister, does the Irish language have in the Northern Ireland that you want it to be?
I don't object to anyone learning whatever language they want, but I do object to any language being rammed down people's throats. And I think the 15% is the clearest possible example of that being rammed down by for political purposes down people's throats. Think of it.
Yeah,
it is preposterous.
I think it's important to say two things. Firstly,
of people can decide that they will have the signage they want, that 85% don't want. Now, really, when it's got to that stage, then it is quite patently about ramming something down someone's throat. And that is
I want to respect Jim and let him finish. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's firstly important. I would disassociate myself from what that caller said. I don't want anyone leaving here, British or Irish. We all belong here. We have different traditions. We've come through them a lot. I think the three-stranded agreement that we worked out in 1998 was very, very important, and it'll form the nature of the relationships, whether we continue to be in the United Kingdom in the short term or, as I believe, in United Ireland in the future. I don't think we can read into what Jim was alluding that we should read into a caller. After all, the quote I gave you earlier was someone who went on to become a TUV councillor, who basically said people who want Ireland should fly flags should move down south. It's the opposite. It's the mere equivalent of what that caller was saying, and that's equally wrong. We all belong here. Now, to address his point again about ramming down people's throat, the Irish language has been oppressed in this society for a long period of time. So giving it a visible presence is only righting a historical wrong.
Yeah, so has the Ulster-Scots language. That has been suppressed too.
All right.
No problem with visibility of it.
I want to move on.
The Polish and the Chinese, far more used in terms of language than any of these other minority
languages. Well, Jim, as you well know, if somebody wants a bilingual sign in Polish or Chinese in Belfast, they can get that. We're the only council where that happens. So, you know, your argument, you're searching for any port in the
Can I just say to Chris, thanks very much for his commentary there, because someone telling us to get on a boat
is ludicrous.
It's ludicrous. So thank you.
I want to move on. So within the last 4 days, the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, is dead. Israel and America are at war with Iran. These are the scenes in Iran. And this is Iran firing back at Israel. They also attacked the Gulf states. Well, tonight some flights carrying people stranded abroad are heading back to the UK and indeed at Dublin Airport. I've been speaking to the Associate Professor at the University of Tehran, Fouad Izzadi, and Greg Swenson, who's Chairman of Republicans Overseas. I began by asking Greg whether this war is necessary and legal.
Well, definitely not illegal. I'm not sure the U.S. cares about international law in general. It's not like we've signed on to, these international courts or whatever, but it's very much legal in the sense that we're not starting a war, we're finishing the war. This war was started by the regime, perhaps in 1979, but definitely after the Marine barracks bombing in 1983. So they've been killing Americans for a very long time. The president was very serious about the regime not having nuclear capabilities, dialing down the ballistic missile program, stopped funding the terrorist proxies that kill Americans and our allies, and also the Navy harassing commercial shipping in the region. So these are pretty obvious things. I don't think that's a lot to ask that a fanatical group of leaders not harass their neighbors and harass Americans.
They want to change Iran's government. This is what he said on the first day of the war. Netanyahu said the same thing. And if you want to change a government, you don't enter a diplomatic solution.
Well, is it not only a matter of time until that government now changes? The Ayatollah is gone. He's dead. It's only a matter of time, right?
He has illegally killed Iran's leader. He killed 165 little girls on the first day of war. They hit the school.
The Americans say they do not target schools. They say they did not do that.
Yeah, that's absurd.
They say that. They haven't denied it. They haven't denied it.
They've said they don't deliberately target schools. Greg?
Only the regime targets civilians. You can see that in the last 3 days.
We are dealing with the Epstein class.
I mean, that's like a last grasp at reality. Look, the Epstein files have nothing to do with this. You know that. That's obscene. How do you argue for the mullahs supporting the terrorist proxies that are killing Americans and the neighbors of Iran? So this is something that has been going on for years.
You can go to the UN Security Council. You are supposed to go to UN Security Council, provide evidence, and then get a vote. Iran under Chapter 7.
If we talk about
this is an illegal war. Killing over 1,000 civilians so far. This is ruthless. I encourage you to Google Dahia doctrine.
Well, let's let Greg finish the sentence. Let's let him speak.
Yeah, I don't think the Security Council would advocate, funding terrorist proxies or firing missiles on civilians, which is what the regime has been firing missiles on civilians for 3 days now. The Americans and the Israelis.
Hold on, Fouad. Hold on. I need to be able to hear you both. Greg, your turn.
Yeah. No, I think what I was saying is that the Americans and Israelis have been firing on military targets, and the regime has responded by firing missiles at hotels in Dubai and civilians
This is what they did in Gaza. They attacked every single school and every hospital in Gaza. They want to make Tehran look like Gaza. They're not going to be able to do that. There is this spirit of resistance in Iran. They have created a martyr. Every night, millions of people go to the streets and chant against Trump and Netanyahu. They don't know what Shia Islam is. 90% of the population is Shia Muslim. You don't create martyr for Shia Muslims. They don't know Iran. Iran has 7,000 years.
You're not talking about the Iranian government turning guns on their own people. And 30,000 to 40,000 people dead because they wanted the right to protest against their government.
These are Trump's numbers. He also said that he won the 2020 election against Biden. Did you believe that? These are exaggerated numbers trying to demonize Iran so they can kill Iranians. This is not true. Iranian government published the names of every single person that was killed. 3,117. Trump, BBC, Netanyahu have not been able to add one name to that list. 32,000 is a made-up number. Don't believe it.
Yeah. Again, it's pretty clear to me and to the government here that the the war was started by the regime, not the Iranian people, who by the great majority of Iranian people do not want to be enslaved by the mullahs, by the regime. And so, if regime
hold on,
change
Fawad, you've got to let him speak.
Yeah, if regime change is one of the outcomes of this military action, well, great, that's fantastic. But the primary goals are keeping the mullahs from firing nuclear weapons, keeping the mullahs from firing ballistic missiles, keeping the Navy, the Iranian Navy, from harassing commercial shipping.
Greg, how does that make sense? Because Trump, under a year ago, was saying that his last attack on Iran meant that he had taken out their nuclear capability for 10 years. And less than a year later, you're arguing that he had to do this to stop a nuclear attack. How does it add up?
It took out the nuclear capabilities, but the mullahs have done their best to recharge those facilities. And also, they're storing uranium. They have 460 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, which could be weapons grade in 7 days. And so, this is something that the mullahs didn't appear to stop. In fact, one of the mullahs themselves said that Trump did take out our nuclear facilities, but he didn't take out the urgency and our will to acquire nuclear weapons. So, they said it themselves. So I think that was a good strike. We had hoped last June that would stop.
Reading Israeli propaganda points. This is not true. The Iranian government has said they never want to have nuclear weapons. I encourage you to read the intelligence community's assessment. You are an American, you know English. Tulsi Gabbard, the head of the U.S. intelligence community, director of national intelligence,
what's the way out of this,
had a report about Iran's nuclear program.
What is the way out of this? How is this war going to stop?
The Americans started it. They can stop it anytime they want. I think Iranian leaders will look at the number of American soldiers that have been killed. If they see it's good enough, they will stop. They don't want to have Americans attacking Iran every few months, killing Iranian leaders. So the U.S. needs to pay a good price to learn a lesson, not to attack.
What do you mean a good price? What price? What do you mean?
The price is that, last time what Iran did was that they announced they're going to hit one base, and they said the number of missiles that they're going to use. They exercised restraint, and look what we got. We got over 1,000 more civilians killed illegally, and we got the country's leader killed.
Can I just be?
They are going to make sure that this time the cost to the United States and Israel is high enough, so they don't repeat this type of rampage.
So can I just be clear? Are you saying
good luck with
that a good price would be defined by the amount of human deaths, the amount of American deaths? Are you saying that
American soldiers? That's what I'm saying. American
you
soldiers
want to see
Iran anymore.
And you want to see how many American soldiers dead, sir? What's a good price?
I think in order for Trump to sell wars, he needs to tell the American people and the U.S. Congress that this is going to be easy and cheap and cost-free. This is how he attacks other countries. He likes Iranian oil. They did a coup d'etat in 1953 for Iranian oil. They want Iranian oil. They want to create hegemony for Israel. Iranian soldiers fight for Iran. American soldiers fight for Israel. Everybody knows that. This is why they're going to be defeated, because they're working for the Epstein class. They are not achieving anything. Iran never pursued a nuclear weapon program. This is the outcome of the U.S. intelligence community assessment.
Well, I think there's two outcomes here when the president will stop. First of all, this kind of lunacy is probably a great advocate for actually, this kind of military action. But I think the president will stop. One of two things happens: unconditional surrender by the mullahs. But given that they're kind of suicidal and they're sort of, apocalyptic nature, I doubt that will happen. The second outcome would be just the end of the ballistic missile program, the nuclear program, sinking the Navy ships. We've already sunk 20, so it's a good start. And then ending the funding of the terrorist proxy groups around the world. Those are the outcomes, and I think we'll get there quickly.
Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Well, as the situation in the Middle East boils over, a political conflict is simmering at Stormont over whether the UK government should get involved. in this. The First Minister, Michelle O'Neill, has been criticised for refusing to join cabinet briefings.
Only the DUP could try to use an international war zone and to try to bring it home and cause political points. I just don't think that washes or it's even credible in anybody's mind.
Deputy First Minister Emma Little-Pengelly.
Look, I think it's genuinely disappointing. Look, the reality is this: we are not being asked our view on military manoeuvres or tactics. That is not the role of these briefings. These briefings will give us an overview about what is happening in a military sense in the region to inform us about the impact of this conflict on the UK, on us here in Northern Ireland, but in particular on those many thousands of people that are in the region who at the moment are very apprehensive.
Jerry Carroll, People Before Profit, is with you tonight. Hello, Jerry. Doug Beattie from the Ulster Unionist Party. Hello, Doug. Was Trump right to go in as he has?
Well, look, I mean, it's more complicated than just asking that question. It's even that the reality is nobody should be cheering on war. War is not a video game. There are genuine people who are suffering here right across the region, and we need to understand that. Diplomacy, war is the result of a failed diplomacy. And that's where we are now, a failed diplomacy. And you can lay the blame on that wherever you want.
Ultimately, the decision needs to be taken, though, Doug. Was he right to go in?
We're now in the situation that we're in now, and that is they are going to degrade the Iranian military capabilities because Iran is a global sponsor of terrorism. Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, who are exporting terrorism right across the world.
Why don't we go in and hit North Korea then, too?
Who are because we're talking about Iran, because and they're
you
also
could talk about North Korea. You could talk about many other countries.
If you want to talk about North Korea, we'll talk about North Korea. But you have an Iranian government which are killing its own people in the thousands, who are repressing their women, and the US government have decided that enough is enough, and they have gone in. Now, the UK government took a different view on that, and I guess Keir Starmer is between a rock and a hard place. You know, for those who are the hawks, he's not doing enough. And for those who are the doves, he's doing far too much.
I'm trying to find the position of the Unionist Party. Well, should Starmer be going further? Was Trump right to go to war?
Well, it's not Trump right to go to war. Is it right to stop Iran from being able to acquire nuclear weapons? The answer is...
He said he did that last year.
The answer... Well, he said he did it last year, but as you know, that was probably a 2-year setback, and they will be able to build that back again. Right. So the point is... sorry, I need to finish this. Is it right to stop Iran getting nuclear weapons? Yes, it is.
Well, I think in terms of the biggest sponsor of terrorism in the world, it's clearly Donald Trump. You know, he's a warmonger in chief, and the result of the last few days, Stephen, we've seen 1,000 Iranians killed. We saw a school blown to bits by the Americans with 185 school children killed. I don't know how anybody...
The American administration has said they did not target a school, and they're looking into that.
Of course they would say that, but obviously anybody knows anything would know that they did it. And this is the kind of democracy that the US is trying to bring. You know, the history is replete with examples of the US promising human rights, promising democracy. Look at Iraq, look at Afghanistan, and everywhere the US goes, they leave a trail of death and destruction. So what we should be doing is actually not spending billions of pounds on war when people in my constituency are struggling to eat, when people are struggling to get homes. We should be putting this money into infrastructure to be supporting people rather than killing people in Iran or elsewhere across the world. And you see the effects, Stephen.
So you don't stop a regime, you don't go in and stop a regime like that Iranian regime.
Well, listen,
look at how they treat their own people.
Here, listen,
look at the torturous, barbaric nature of what they would...
Yeah, well, I'm not here to hold a torch.
Death to all Americans. America just stands by and watches that, do they?
Well, America invaded and bombed Iran, but I'm not here to hold a torch for the Iranian government. It's up to the people in Iran and any country to say their government, and I don't think, actually, bombs by America, bombs by Britain, bombs by France, cannot, by definition, bring democracy, freedom to anybody across the world. It's not a... Look at Iraq. 1 million people were killed in Iraq. ISIS were created in Iraq, and this potentially could be more and more devastating and destructive if America gets their way.
Corey's calling us tonight from Strabane, live on BBC One. Corey, go ahead.
Evening, Stephen. I must say too, I'm loving the new haircut.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's weird seeing you not white.
Do you like the wee tint?
Yeah, well, you may start doing more TikTok videos now, and you'll be an inspiration to the rest of us, no doubt.
Doug was saying just before I come out there, he's going to get a wee tint, didn't you?
I think he needs it.
I've got one. It's a natural one.
Right, get back to this anyway. That's your distraction. Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, well, Stephen, listen, at the end of the day, we all know how terrible war is, and I feel for people living in that country who are seeing these wars, people whose homes are being blown up, whose lives are being destroyed, and at the end of the day, people need to remember that the people of Iran deserve freedom, they deserve their peace, and they deserve their security. Because at the end of the day, sustainable change does require diplomacy.
But regime change through war. Trump's saying he wants regime change, telling the Iranian people to get out on the streets and protest to bring down that government. Is that the place of any political leader to do?
Well, here's the fundamental problem,
For me, it's not for Donald Trump to dictate who runs people's countries.
Corey, thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Corey. Here's the fundamental problem. I think Corey's not wrong in what he's saying, but the fundamental problem is Trump has gone in without a plan. He has gone in to do this, and he has not got an exit strategy to this, so we don't know what he's going to do. He's literally making up as he goes along, and that's one of the problems I think was faced the UK government, and why the UK government weren't involved in this from the very start, because there's no plan to do this. And just saying to the populace, rise up against him and take your government back.
How does that even work?
Well,
rise up against who?
It doesn't work. So the only thing he can do now, and this is what escalates it further, is to start to arm groups like the Kurdish groups in the area and get them to move in. And you basically start a civil war. A civil war in a country of 90 million people is going to be extremely dangerous. And we can see the effects of this right across the Middle East and right across the globe now. This is why war is not something to cheer on. And if people have seen the effects of war, and I've seen the effects of war, if people see the effects of war, they will realise that anything you can do to stop war is a good thing. But we have to ensure, whatever way we do it, that we stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons. Now, everybody keeps thinking about nuclear weapons as an intercontinental ballistic missile, but they could be suitcase size.
Yeah, I don't want any nuclear weapons, but let's talk about who've used nuclear weapons. America dropped them in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the IAEA have said that Iran is actually complying with all its obligations in terms of not having nuclear facilities. So I think there's a lot of WND type myths being spread in the run up to this war to justify it. I think it needs to be challenged, it needs to be pushed back upon, because war is devastating, it's destructive, and it's spreading right across the world. It's having an effect on people in Iran, people in other parts of the Middle East.
It's having an effect on people here as well.
You just
look at energy prices, for example. Look at the price of what's happening, by the way, with oil since Monday. I think we can actually see this. There it is, look, the price of oil has almost doubled. Like, it's incredible. From just over 300 quid on Monday, today's Wednesday, to 565 quid for 500 litres of oil. Doug Beattie, your party is part of the executive. Should the executive be giving people special help with energy prices? We have the winter fuel payment, obviously. Should there be some type of support contemplated?
If the funds were there, and I think this is something that the UK central government should be thinking about, if we're going to try and do that. I don't think we can do that as a standalone measure from ourselves. What I would say about this spike in the oil prices, I would imagine, this is just me and my analysis and guessing on this one, is that that's likely to come down again. I think the Straits of Hormuz, which is being blocked pretty much at the moment because shipping isn't getting the insurance to go through, I think that's likely to be cleared in the next number of weeks, and the supply will start to increase, and that will start going down. The cost will start going down again. That doesn't help anybody right now, but I think that's where we're likely to be.
Michael's in Belfast. Hello, Michael.
How you doing, Stephen?
Go ahead.
I'll tell you. I'd like to say there, Jerry Carroll sitting in the panel. You may as well be at that city hall, bring all your Palestine flags and chains for Iran. Have a wee stall up there. He had a stop the war there on Sunday.
It was a protest on Monday.
He got an Egypt made off him because the Iranian people made an Egypt off him and turned around and told him he didn't know what he was talking about.
Well, you're confusing Palestine with Iran, so it's doubtful whether you know what you're talking about, Michael. But obviously, Monday's protest. Monday's protest.
Hold on now, Michael. Let him speak to you, mate. Then you can speak back.
Yeah.
Hold on.
So what Monday's protest was an anti-war demonstration that I helped organise and put together. And obviously, if you're happy with your oil price going through the roof, Michael. If you're that's good for you. You must have enough money in your pocket. If you're happy with schools being blown up, then that says a lot about your political perspective, Michael. So I don't know anybody who would actually cheer on this war apart from maybe Donald Trump and a few of his hangers-on here. But maybe that's your politics.
Michael, do you want to respond to that?
That's up to you.
Yes, please, Terry. You're meant to be fighting for the Irish people.
I am, yeah, and I'm also fighting for people of all nationalities.
You're paid for the fight for the Irish people. You fight for the Irish people. The Irish people are sick and tired of you, Jerry.
Well, they voted for me. They voted for me for the last 10 years or so, Michael. So yeah, not enough of them are sick and tired of me, but yeah.
You've disappeared, Michael. I don't know where you've gone.
I'm still here, Stephen.
What's your problem with Jerry Carroll tonight?
Because one minute, if there's another war in another country next year, or next week.
So you support the war, do you? Just to be clear, you support it?
Yeah.
Right.
Why?
Because the mullahs in Iran, they're the most terrorist organisation in the world. They've went into other countries and murdered in other countries, and they support terrorism all over the world with Hezbollah, Hamas, the whole lot.
And he's right, Stephen. They have literally helped destabilise that region continuously for many, many years. I mean, if we can always flick back and talk about Gaza, and you know that's a different conversation completely. But they helped destabilise that through Hamas, through Hezbollah, through the Houthis, and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard is global. They are literally everywhere, and they're promoting terrorism, and that needs to stop. And it's been going on for far, far too long. And do you know who's paying the price for this? The Iranian people. The Iranian people are paying the price for this every single day, and something has to change eventually. And the UN are impotent. They just haven't done enough to be able to tackle this particular issue.
Well, President Donald Trump has been quite critical, hasn't he, of our Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer.
By the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know what to say about Donald Trump, but I mean, obviously part of this is he wants deflection. You know, he's not launching a war, and he criticised Obama for this in 2008 or 9 about maybe launching a war to help with his popularity dropping, and that's happening with Donald Trump. His popularity is at a record low. All sort of accusations around the Epstein files, and obviously a war he's trying to...
he would deny any wrongdoing whatsoever, nor has anything been proven against them.
Accusations. And obviously he's trying to use a war to try and, you know, generate jingoistic feeling in America to try and save him and his party. But actually it's around 24-25% of Americans actually support attack on Iran. This is despite 40 years of demonization of Iran, of the Middle East, so it's clearly unpopular. So the question is, how can we build a peace movement in Ireland and America and across the world which pushes back against the warmongers?
You and I have spoken. You just said something a few minutes ago about, you know, you've been at war, and you and I have spoken about this, about your experience of war. You must have seen, and we've talked about the impact on you. You've seen the devastation that it causes on civilians up close.
Yes, and I guess that's the important part, and this is not about me, Stephen, but the reality is, and I say this every single time, the people who suffer the most when governments fail in their diplomacy are innocent civilians. And I've seen it firsthand. I've seen our own government's failure in diplomacy and civilians suffer. I've clearly seen the United States failure in diplomacy, and we've seen people suffer. We've seen what Hamas did in Israel, and we've seen people suffer there, and we've seen the retribution that came back the other way, and it suffers there. It's a failure in diplomacy whenever we end up going to war, and it's innocent people who suffer, men, women and children, and I've seen that up close, and it's not something that anybody should be supporting. But I'll go back to this again, Stephen. Iran cannot continue doing what they're doing without consequences, and the people of Iran can't continue to suffer the way they're suffering without somebody coming in to help them. I think we've been forced into this particular position now. And you know what? Trump, and I'm no fan of Trump. Trust me, I'm really not.
Why not?
Well, because I think his foreign policy is absolutely crazy. I think he makes it up on the hoof. He doesn't do anything which has a long-term outcome to it. I just can't see it. And everything he does, even if you look at the peace he tried to broker between Israel and Gaza, that's now absolutely broken down because Israel is now engaged in the Lebanon. So with Hezbollah, a terrorist organisation. So everything is breaking down because there's no long-term strategy with Trump. It's all the here and the now. But the reality is they've had to go in and do this now because Iran will be able to acquire even small quantities of nuclear weapons.
I don't think they had to go into it. You know, like Doug says, war is ugly. It is ugly, but I don't think we should be cheering it on or trying to give it any cover. Actually, the negotiators last week, it was the Omanis, were negotiating and saying actually the Iranians were quite flexible and willing to sign up the lot of stuff. But actually the reason why this war happened, Marco Rubio said this at the weekend, Israel were going to go ahead and launch an attack on Iran. The US felt they had to come in and back Israel, and also they saw an opportunity to attack what they would see as one of their biggest enemies for the last 40 years.
Is the world a better place with the Ayatollah dead, with many dead?
I think the world's quite a dangerous place now.
I'm not asking that. I'm asking, is it a better place with many dead?
Well, I'm not going to cheerlead him or mourn him.
Is it a better place with them dead?
No, because we've got a war, Stephen, so it's not a better, safer place.
The thing is, Stephen, look, they've cut off the head, which was the Ayatollah, but another one's replaced it. It doesn't change anything. So unless you get rid of the whole regime. Now, how do you get rid of the whole regime? This is the problem that I have with this whole thing.
You can't bomb the whole country.
There's nothing and no long-term plan. That's my problem with this.
Well, look, there's no doubt that we're going to keep on talking about it as the war continues. We'll be back on BBC Radio Ulster for Nolan at 9 in the morning. In the meantime, sleep well. Thank you.